Hi everyone, this is Moni Singh, and I'm here with Hannah Stokes. Hannah and I know each other. Hannah used to work as a STEM coach at some of our local operations here with STEM for Kids, an excellent instructor. But since then, Hannah has gone on and done some really amazing work, and now she's a PhD candidate at UNC Charlotte, and she's working in the area of sports biomechanics. I'm so thrilled to hear a lot about what it entails. So let's go over to that. And Hannah, welcome to the show. And to start us off by talking a little bit about what you're doing and what you've done in your pathway since you and I crossed path. You being an instructor.
Yeah, so since I've uh, joined UNC Charlotte, I'm a PhD candidate. So what that entails is I'm doing lots of teaching, uh, almost piggybacking off of my work at STEM for Kids. I've been able to since then create the curriculum for a new course at UNC Charlotte. So I've been teaching that the last 3 semesters, and a lot of my research has been in the sports biomechanics field. So far, I'm in a project on baseball pitching as well as golf swings. So we'll kind of touch on some of those a little bit more in depth. But the biomechanics, broken down simply, is just how the human body moves. So what I'm doing is investigating the movements and seeing how ultimately want to increase performance, reduce injury, and just make the athlete, coach, and clinician overall in a more excited field and space.
Oh, very nice. Super exciting. I can't wait to hear more. But before we get there, talk a little bit about, what inspired you to get into this field of biomechanics?
Yeah, so I, as a child, I played sports growing up. I kind of touched into a little bit of everything, at least this season. And then growing up through high school, I played softball, basketball, and I ran track and field. So I was always super competitive. I have a brother that's a year younger, so we were always going head to head. My dad was an engineer, is currently an engineer. My mom's a nurse. So coming from that background, in high school, I really got excited about sports medicine. I had this anatomy course that I took. So I was thinking that I wanted to go into the physical therapy field. I did some shadowing, and from there, I realized that the like flashy what physical therapists do weren't what most physical therapists actually did. And I always excelled and loved math. So at NC State, where I got my undergraduate degree, I jumped into biomedical engineering. And from there, I had like an opportunity to work for STEM for Kids as well as coaching at a CrossFit gym and just some really great mentors that pushed me towards the continued teaching. So from there, I went to graduate school, and it just was like all the stars aligned. It was a perfect fit. And that my mentor now, Dr. Zhang, he was almost one of the founders, specifically in the baseball field in the sports biomechanics. He's been working through since 1996. He's worked with Olympic teams, uh, professional athletes, different things like that. So I was able to step right under his mentorship, and I've learned so much along the way.
Oh, wow, that is so nice. So let's get into this. So when you talk about the baseball pitching and the golf swing, tell me more about what you do with that.
Yeah, so I brought a couple things that I wanted to show as well.
So,
So we do, we use motion capture. So there's normally about 12 cameras set out. And in the athlete, we put on these little markers. They're super small.
uh-huh,
We use double-sided tape, so it might go on their shoulder, their elbow, in different positions. And this is what the cameras are looking for.
I
They
see.
track this position as the baseball pitcher is throwing the ball or the golfer is swinging. And then in additional with these markers, we also have other sensors. There are these sensors right here. These are EMG sensors. So you see these two clips?
Uh-huh.
I attach right on here. This is a surface electrode. So this goes right on the athlete's muscle. So maybe right here that could track, and what EMGs are, that's electromyography, that tracks the muscle activity. So while they're pitching, we
Similar
can
to what they
see,
do when you go for like a heart, they do ECG and stuff. Looks like those kinds of sensors. Is it
yes, it
something
is
similar? Yeah.
similar. Yes,
Uh-huh.
very similar. So the only difference for when you're going for your heart is it's measuring the heart muscle tissue, where this is measuring the skeletal muscle system.
I see.
So just slightly different systems, slightly different sensors. But so when the athletes are throwing, when they're swinging, whatever it may be, we're able to track not only their movement, but also how their muscles are reacting. So some of the things and some of the tests that we run are seeing, is one side stronger than the other side? Do we see uh, the difference between athletes that have been injured and ones that have not been injured, and how their movement patterns may change, how we can suggest potential treatment options, and just kind of seeing overall mechanisms to overall improve performance and reduce injury.
I see. So is this like the research that you're working on, does that lead us to some kind of a product that a professional could then put on themselves just to improve, figure out ways to improve themselves? Could be one way, or how to avoid injury.
Yeah, so in the baseball study, we also created this device, and we're kind of in the process of upgrading it a little bit and maybe even getting into the patent process, which some of you may know, maybe you haven't. That's basically the process in which you're going to claim it as your own and potentially sell it on the market.
Hmm.
So from that sense, it would be able to test the like rotational properties, the flexibility, the stiffness, the range of motion of the shoulder, because the shoulder and elbow, because that's where a lot of baseball pitchers seem to have most of the injuries. So that's a device that we've developed. We're still in the potential stages of upgrading it to measure a couple more things and still in the trials of testing it out. But that's something that individual teams could have, or even physical therapist offices or sports medicine, different things like that, where they could have a device and they would be able to monitor the not only baseball pitching, it could even be other overhead throwing athletes, maybe the javelin and track and field, or even like handball, or lots of other different sports that it could be applicable, but or football, the quarterback throwing, different things like that. Um, but we just got into the realm of the baseball pitching.
Very nice. That's so cool. So tell me, if you can think about, I'm sure it's an exciting field overall, but if you can think about two things that really, really excite you, that you like the most about what you're doing right now, Hannah?
Yes. So I would say what is almost motivated by our study that we're our the funded study that we're in is actually seeing practical application in place. So sometimes in research and any field, it's easy to come up with something new, but it's not something new is not always helpful.
Mhm.
So what we're really looking forward to is working with doctors as well as players as well as coaches, and trying to integrate a way that we can come up with a methodology, we can come up with a new device that would actually be helpful and usable to like other people, and that can be used on the baseball field or on the football field or on fields instead of just in the laboratory. So that's one thing that really excites me.
Basically finding a real life application of what you're creating to solve a problem. That's
Correct.
amazing. So I know that this field in particular is such a growing field, just the overall the field of biomedicine. And I know that there are many youngsters out there today who might be thinking, considering going down this pathway. What sort of advice do you give to these youngsters considering biomedicine?
Yeah. So the first piece of encouragement that I would encourage for any youngsters and looking into any STEM field or really any field in general is always to keep learning and asking lots of questions. That just sparks the curiosity, that sparks the ideas, and especially in a growing field, that's super beneficial because who knows, maybe it's a 12-year-old that comes up with this new idea that turns into something huge. Specifically for the like biomedicine, sports biomechanics, that field, I just wanted to encourage the youngsters to start small, wherever you're at now, and to never give up. It could even be thinking about my teaching, it could be you tutoring or helping just one friend in a class, or it could even be performing mini experiments outside in your backyard, just to get started and like kind of run with the ideas that you have in your head.
Very nice. So basically, keep learning. Don't shut your mind down, right? I mean, it's keep learning because there's so much to learn. And then, of course, start. I think what you're saying is starting is the key. Make sure you begin somewhere, whatever
Yes.
it is. Very nice. When you think about, the different things that you've done in the field of biomechanics, anything funny, anything strange that you want to share
So
with us?
So another one of the studies that I've also joined into a little, I was later in the project just based off of when I started at UNC Charlotte, but they are investigating subjects before and patients before they have surgery. They are having new knee implants put into their knees. And
Mhm.
then they come into the lab before and they come into the lab after. And one of the funniest things is talking where the subjects and the patients that we're dealing with, they're 60 and above. So they're like grandparents. And they're coming in, and when we're putting all these little sensors on them, we are really interested in their lower legs. So they have to take their shoes and socks off, and it's super funny because we're having to wipe their feet off, put these sensors on, and a lot of times they're making jokes with us of not looking at their feet and all these different things. But it's lots of fun interacting with the different patients, and that's what I really love about the field, just getting to know the athletes, the patient, everyone that we're getting to know. And I think some of the funniest things just come from the stories that they share. And then some of the like where we put their markers on their legs, they always have different things to say about that.
Put these markers and you see the images. Is that the kind of image when you see sometimes the stick figures they show them moving around? That's the kind of images that you look at.
Yes. And they're always super excited to see the results that we're looking at, just because some of the motion capture data, just as you see in movie making film, it's we're using the similar type of technology. We're just using it for a different end product, but same technology.
Very nice. That's super cool. I'm sure. I think we'll be talking again just to know what other things that you're doing to developing. Because yeah, when I imagine those stick figures, and you're right. That's what's used for animations, right? They actually make real people run, and they take those stick figure, images, and then they make convert it into animation. So it's very interesting, and you're applying that to medicine now, to improve the performance of athletes. So very amazing. All right, great. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all these wonderful insights. I think some of the pieces I'm kind of like to recap here is that keep learning, keep asking questions, and start. Starting is the key. So for everybody listening out there, remember that. Remember those little nuggets from a very marvelous Hannah Stokes. She is just amazing with what she does. So, Hannah, I wish you all the best with everything as you are going forward into your career. I can't wait to see, once you patent
Thank
your
you.
product and maybe we have this product out in the marketplace, and how wonderful it does. So, all the best with everything, and thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.